Fans around the world, thank you for joining me here on Talkin Fight for another episode of Boxing News today. And let's get right at it with a couple of results emanating from around the world and some news out of the WBO to start things off. Just a few days ago, the WBO Championship Committee issued a purse bid order for the Joshua Buatsi versus Anthony Yard interim light heavyweight title bout of great interest to our UK fans. The committee outlined specific provisions, most notably granting Yard 72 hours to personally confirm in writing to the WBO whether he would participate. The time elapsed without formal communication from Yard, prompting the WBO to determine that he was uninterested and therefore unavailable to fight. The committee has now ordered an interim title match between Buatsi and Willie Hutchinson, and the camps have 10 days to negotiate a deal or a purse bid will ensue. Let's move over to Japan. We haven't spoken about our Japanese fighters for a while, other than what Bob Arum, I believe, was saying about Inoue the other day. But anyway, hard punching perennial contender Yamato Hata, he's now 15-2, impressively captured the OPBF 130-pound belt when he caught up with defending champ Kazuki Saka, he's 23-8, and halted him at 2 minutes 32 seconds of the third round in a scheduled 12-rounder that took place in Tokyo, Japan. Good news for Hata. In other news, over in Japan, 10-time amateur national champ with a 154-20 mark, the WBO number 14 ranked Japanese southpaw Kenji Fujita, he's now 7-0 in the pro ranks, kept his WBO Asia Pacific featherweight belt as he complied good points in the first, I would say compiled, but it says complied in this. Anyway, sorry. Suffered a left hand fracture in the eighth, but eked out a close but unanimous decision over Filipino Rodex Piala, who's now 10-1. Scoring a flash knockout of the Filipino in round two, Fujita looked to show an easy triumph over the slower, less aggressive challenger, but the tide turned from the 10th on, as Fujita only kept circling without throwing positive shots, while Piala displayed his last surge to the fast-moving and elusive champ. Nonetheless, Fujita won. All right, in other battles that took place, the headline screams, Zhang brutally knocks out Wilder in 5. And for those who saw it, you might have argued there's a bit of contention. You might have argued there's a bit of Zhang's foot on Wilder's foot, whereby Wilder was kind of spinning around, maybe running away. But nonetheless, don't turn your back on your opponent. You're going to get clobbered, and he did. So let's read what this particular article has to say. In a crossroads heavyweight showdown, Big Bang Zhilai Zhang, now 27-2-1, knocked out the bronze bomber Deontay Wilder, who's now 43-4-1 with 42 knockouts, in round number 5 over in the Kingdom Arena. What the heck? The Kingdom Arena in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. The 41-year-old Zhang, with a 48-pound weight advantage, stalked the 38-year-old Wilder, who looked to catch Zhang with right hands. Zhang worked over Wilder on the ropes for a stretch in round number 2. Zhang continued to walk down Wilder as the action slowed. Zhang laid out Wilder in round number 5 with a right hand that spun him around in a follow-up right that ended Wilder's night, and I would hope his career, not because I don't like Wilder, but I do think he's been knocked out now several times. His time has come to an end, and we'll talk more about that later. With respect to those English fans who are keeping track of Teams Queensbury and Team Matchroom, that 5v5, they've had 2 now. The 5v5 competitions, it's now 10-0. So Queensbury defeating Matchroom 10-0 in that fight. Anyway, Daniel Dubois stopped number 1 Hrgovic in round number 8. This again helping to clear up the clogged heavyweight division. In a clash for the IBF interim heavyweight title, former WBA regular heavyweight champion and IBF number 4 rated Dynamite Daniel Dubois, 21-2, 20 knockouts, stopped previously unbeaten IBF number 1 Philip Hrgovic, 17-1, 14 knockouts in round number 8, again over in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Good fight, both landing big shots without a doubt. Hrgovic repeatedly connected early with hard rights that Dubois somehow took. Hrgovic bled from cuts over both eyes. Dubois rocked the tiring Hrgovic around 7, and the bout was stopped by the referee at 57 seconds of round number 8. Now, as an aftermath story here, as I told you last week, I told you this would happen, and it happened. Dimitri Bivol stopped Janad, and he's retained his WBA light heavyweight title. Do I need to tell you any more than that? Not really. But it was Bivol's first knockout since 2018. Good little. Anyway, hopefully a decent tune-up for the October 12th Undisputed Showdown where WBC, IBF, WBO champ Arthur Beterbiev. That's the fight we want to see. Another fight that was a good fight, and speaking of Hutchison, who's been ordered. Anyway, Hamza Shiraz. Anyway, let's start off with the story here. Unbeaten WBA number 9, Nick Wrecking Ball, 20-0-1, 11 knockouts, dethroned previously unbeaten WBA featherweight champion Ray Savage for 15-1-1 by 12-round split decision at the Kingdom Meridian in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. All part of this action-packed weekend over there. Ball pressed the action and outworked Ford for the first half of the fight. Ford broke Ball's nose in round number 7 and got better down the stretch. In the end, the scores are 115, 113 Ford, 115, 113, 115, 113 Ball. So Nick Ball on his way. In a WBC middleweight eliminator between two unbeaten fighters, WBC number 2, Hamza Shiraz, 20-0, 60 knockouts, scored an 11-round TKO over WBC Austin Ammo Williams, 16-1. Williams rocked Shiraz in round number 1, but Shiraz found his range and dominated Williams after that. Shiraz dropped Williams at the end of round number 10 and got a referee stoppage in round number 11. Time was 45 seconds. Let's see. One more to read here. WBC number 7, WBO number 7, light heavyweight and former amateur champ Willie Hutchison, who I just mentioned, 18-1. Scored a 12-round unanimous decision over former world title challenger and WBA number 4 rated Craig the Spider Richards. Is now 18-4-1. Let's have a quick see if there's anything else. Oh, there is one more. Unbeaten super lightweight Kevin Haler Brown, 5-0. Took an unpopular 10-round split decision over Adalberto Amira, 12-3 on Friday night at the Caribe Royal Hotel in Orlando, Florida. Brown overcame a 4th-round knockdown to win on 2 cards, and Umera was up at the time 97-92 on the 3rd card. Brown therefore retains his WBA Continental Americas title. Oh, here's a good one. Someone who we haven't mentioned in a while. Heavyweight Gurgen Big Gug Hovhafsnesian, 6-0, stopped Luis Pascual, 19-11 after 2 rounds. The 6'7" Hovhannessian dropped Pascal in round number 2, and the bout was halted between rounds. Obviously, Pascual did not get off his chair. All righty, let's have a look and see where we're at now with my all-time favorite, the heavyweight division. Okay, having a quick look here. As I've asked, who will Anthony Joshua fight next? This was all contingent on, shall we say, the Deontay Wilder outcome, which I told you would not end kindly for Deontay Wilder. Anyway, let's have a quick look here. Anthony Joshua is seemingly open to fighting Daniel Dubois or Zhilei Zhang when he headlines in September at Wembley. Is Daniel Dubois the obvious choice? I guess if you're a British boxing fan, you would say obviously. IBF interim heavyweight champ Dubois, he's now 21-2, is the obvious choice for Joshua to fight in September because there's a good chance his IBF title will be elevated to the full version by then. The clash will attract a lot of interest, as I just said, from British boxing fans because both guys are from the UK. Now, Zhang would be a good option, given how looked in stopping Deontay Wilder in the 5th round. However, he lacks a world title. Fighting Zhang would be more about Joshua proving he could beat the guy who destroyed Wilder. But that's probably not enough for AJ because he wants to win the IBF title. He wants that belt. He'll have to fight Dubois to get it. A dangerous matchup. If Joshua fights Dubois, this would be the first true high-quality clash put on by the Saudis, as the last two matches were arguably gimmies against boxing novice Francis Ngannou and Otto Wallin. Let me chime in here with my 2 cents. I don't know what 1% of a billion is, but Zhang has a pretty good reputation over in China. And if I were looking at the pay-per-view numbers on this one, and I put up Anthony Joshua against Zhilai Zhang, I think the pay-per-view numbers would speak for themselves, and you'd get a pretty big audience over in China watching Zhilai Zhang take on Anthony Joshua. My 2 cents, would Chinese fans watch an all-Brit clash? Would Americans watch an all-Brit clash? And the answer has proven itself time and time again, no. So if the boxing gods want to move boxing around the world in a spectacular fashion, my 2 cents, as I've said, throw Zhilai Zhang in there against Anthony Joshua, and let's see if the now, having said that, he's a big boy, but he is over 40, so he might get himself clobbered by Joshua. But we'll have to wait and see. Not my decision, but my 2 cents. All right. So, keeping in mind, good old Frank Warren, whose team included Zhilai Zhang, who brutally knocked out Wilder in the aftermath of that defeat, which followed his loss to Joseph Parker last year. Many now believe Wilder's career is at an end. I've said it before. I'll say it again. It should have ended, and I agree with, I think it was Frank Warren said, maybe it was Bob Arum who said it. But anyway, one of the two said, he should have retired after his fights against Tyson. He's earned his money. He paid for his daughter's hospitalization and medical bills. That was his aim. He's got a great story behind him, maybe even a movie. But at the end of the day, it's time for him to retire. Frank Warren said, and when asked whether he's at the telefighter to retire, he said, yeah, I have. I've done it on numerous occasions, but the problem is whether they listen. And unfortunately, in boxing, what they can do is go somewhere else. The thing about the fighter is they're the first to know when their powers are gone. And they're not the fighters they were, but they're the last to admit it. That's the problem. You've got people around who will keep saying, yeah, just have one more, have one more. You can't do that because all you're doing is putting miles on the clock, and it comes back to haunt you in later life. He should hang up the gloves, I believe, after he fought Tyson, because those fights took a lot out of him. That's according to Frank Warren. Anyway, so I'm not saying anything negative about Deontay Wilder, but I do think for his own health, put the gloves aside and put your money where your mouth is. Open up a gym, open up a management company, open up a promotion, get something else in the world of boxing if you really want to stay in the game. That's what I would do if I were you, my friend. Anyway, according to his manager, Shelley Finkel, he still is undecided, however. Now, keeping in mind he was, shall we say, sleeping after his fight, and therefore, here's the quote, says Finkel, he is fine. He's sleeping now. He's very emotional last night, obviously. We didn't expect it to go the way it did. I have nothing but praise for the way Zhang fought. He was the better man. It is Deontay's decision whether this is his last fight or not. I love the guy. I've been with him for 15 years, and I don't want him to get hurt. It's totally his decision. I will let him know how I feel, but it is his decision. I'll support whatever he does. Asked whether Wilder of old is gone, Finkel replied, probably, but Zhang also had something to do with it. He was very good, a very big man. You just can't pity Pat. You have to hurt them and stop them, and it didn't work last night. And realistically, as we're about to discover, the boxing world is pretty well unanimous that Deontay Wilder should hang up the gloves and call it a day. All righty, let's have a quick look and see what else is on here. Oh, so Where does that leave Zhilai Zhang other than potentially facing Anthony Joshua? So remember, um, prior to the fight against Wilder, there were plans to match Zhang against undefeated U.S. contender Jared Anderson on August 3rd on that Terence Crawford Israel Majimov undercard. But that potential bout, I don't think it's going to happen now. While Anderson now seeks a new opponent, Zhang has reignited his career at the ripe old age of 41, following an upset loss to former heavyweight champ Joseph Parker, who routed Wilder in December. Anyway, Zhang floored Parker twice in that March meeting, but still lost on the cards. Against Wilder, Zhang was far sharper and active, and he's still seeking his first opportunity to become the first heavyweight champion from China. Remember, billion people, 1%. Don't know what that number is, but I don't know. Huge pay-per-view, if you ask me. Okay, so Zhang, who entered the bout rated number 6 by ESPN at heavyweight, should now have plenty of options in the resurgent heavyweight division, courtesy of Turki Al-Sheikh. While Alexander Usyk heads towards a championship rematch with Fury on December 21st in Riyadh, Zhang could perhaps move on to fight Anderson, or he could look to a rematch with Parker, who was ringside for the fight. Another option for Zhang, a September 21st fight with Anthony Joshua at Wembley Stadium, which I think is likely. Though that opportunity could also go to Daniel Dubois, who stopped Philip Hrgovic, who I mentioned earlier on the undercard. So whomever Zhang meets next, his career is as relevant as ever. His biggest win yet, Wild's own career, meanwhile, may, quite frankly, be over. Now, how does Daniel Dubois feel about all this? Let's just quote the headline from Sky Sports, okay? Pro-British. Daniel Dubois vows to, in quotes, demolish Anthony Joshua if the British heavyweights collide, potentially for the IBF title, which I've just discussed. So there you go. Daniel Dubois feeling very confident, as a young man should. Now, speaking of confidence and perhaps a lack of it, unfortunately, we now see that Mike Tyson and his fight against Jake Paul has been postponed after Tyson suffered a bit of a health issue on a flight last week, which means we don't get to see Mike Tyson knock out Jake Paul on July 20th at the AT&T Stadium in Dallas. We were all looking forward to it. And but having said that, I gotta admit it probably would have been a good fight. Mike Tyson later tweeted, however, after all that, now feeling 100%, even though I don't need to be to beat Jake Paul. Great quote. But a statement from Paul's Most Valuable Promotions later said, the recommendation for Mike Tyson is to do minimal to light training over the next few weeks and then return to full training with no limitations. Both Mike and Jake are in agreement that it's only fair to ensure that both athletes have equal training time to prepare for this important match and are able to compete at the highest level. The health and well-being of our athletes is top priority. We fully support Mike in taking the necessary time to allow him to perform at the level he expects of himself. Mike is expected to return to his full training schedule in the coming weeks and is eager to get back in the ring. MVP anticipates rescheduling the match later this year at AT&T Stadium, and we look forward to an exciting and well-prepared contest between the two exceptional athletes. The new date of the fight will be announced by Friday, June 7th. There was a report on where Amanda Serrano would end up out of all that, but I can't remember where I saw that, and I can't find it right now. Anyway, speaking of heavyweight, someone who we haven't mentioned in a long time, good old Michael Hunter, back in the headlines. Michael Hunter, a heavyweight at 35 years old, says he's only got 2 goals left in boxing, winning a world title and avenging his lone career loss to Alexander Usyk. That's right, you heard it here first. Hunter will fight Friday in a 12-rounder against Cassius Chaney, in which the WBA interim heavyweight trinket is reportedly on the line at the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel Casino in Hollywood, Florida. Usyk is currently, as we know, the undisputed heavyweight champion, and his next mandated fight would be an IBF heavyweight title defense against Daniel Dubois. following by a WBA defense. But with Usyk now 37 and contractually obligated to a December rematch against Tyson Fury, the man he beat to become the undisputed heavyweight champion, the clock is ticking. Hunter, by the way, 22 and 1, 2 draws, 60 knockouts. Looks back with contempt at his 2017 fight with Usyk and believes he wasn't the fighter he should have been. His fight with the 36-year-old Cheney, 23 and 1, is his gateway back to Usyk. A win will allow him a chance to become a mandatory challenger for the only man who has beaten him as a professional. He said, I would love to fight Usyk again. I didn't have a good showing at that point. I had little malfunction outside of the ring. If you look at the tail of the tape of that fight, you'll see I was the underweight that night of the fight compared to weigh-in, and he had a hydrated 10, 20 pounds. So there were a lot of mistakes that happened outside the ring. That's where the fight is really won, doing the work outside the ring and doing your due diligence there. Hunter noted that times were tougher for him then, and some of his motivation came from the financial relief a fight of that magnitude would bring. He said, I was having my first child. It was all about finances. I had about $3,000 to do camp. I wasn't able to eat. I was eating one time a day, so I wasn't able to be prepared as I would have liked. I've never been scared to jump in the ring with anybody. So like I said, I really didn't gain weight and rehydrate in that fight. I was totally dehydrated. If you even know somebody who dehydrated, who has nothing in their stomach, and they drink a lot of water, it's the worst thing you can do for a fighter. Young fighters out there, never do that, because what that does, it dries you out, because then after that, you have really nothing inside of you. So there you go. A bit of words of advice from Michael Hunter regarding his hopes of one day becoming a champ. Anyway, let's go back to Hamza Shiraz for a sec here. Hamza Shiraz was Captain Fantastic for Frank Warren, bagging him 3 wins and 4 points over enemy Eddie Hearn. The Queensbury boss picked his favorite middleweight to lead his side in the 5v5 battle with his matchroom nemesis, and was already up 2-0, should I say 2-0, by the time the 25-year-old faced American Emma Williams. Anyway, so Shiraz, I think, put on a masterclass performance, if I'm not mistaken. And the 30-year-old feud between the two boxing families was all but settled when Shiraz put on a masterclass to bloody, bruise, floor, and stop Williams, make it 6-0 to Queensbury. And with only 2 fights and 6 points left on the table, Daniel Dubois then stopped Philip Rogovic in the 8th round, and Zhang Zhang KO'd Deontay Wilder in the 5th to make it a 10-0 whitewash for Frank Warren. So, Eddie Hearn, where are your fighters now? All righty. I'm not laughing at Eddie Hearn. All right. What I am laughing at is this one. Next headline. De La Hoya throws it down to Bob Arum. Golden Boy versus Top Rank in Vegas is huge. Taking a page versus Queensbury versus Matchroom. Here's a good one. I actually love this possibility of, I hope this happens, because it's going to take away the power of those organizations who hold belts. It's going to take away the UK power that seemingly has a stronghold over who fights whom. Anyway, let's have a quick read of this story here. Oh, the possibilities it starts. Oscar De La Hoya is very much a fan of the 5v5 concept. We saw a great rivalry come to a head this past Saturday in Riyadh as the Frank Warren Queensbury fighters went to battle with 5 Eddie Hearn Matchroom warriors. In the end, in a surprise, Warren won via clean sweep, 5-0. We will almost certainly see a rematch somewhere down the road. But De La Hoya, as he made clear, very message he put on social media, go figure, wants in. Oscar wants to go head-to-head with Bob Arum and Tom Frank in Las Vegas. Great concept by Turki Al-Ashik. Golden Boy Boxing versus Top Rank in Vegas. De La Hoya put on X. Golden Boy versus Top Rank in Vegas is huge. At Bob Arum, let's talk. It would, of course, be great to see 5 Golden Boy fighters go against 5 of Top Rank's best. and the best possible matchups are tantalizing. Golden Boy fighters include the likes of Ryan Garcia. Now it all depends if he's allowed to fight. Virgil Ortiz Jr., Jaime Munguia, Oscar Colaza, William Zepeda, Arnold Barboza Jr. Over Top Rank, excellent talent. Shakur Stevenson, Vasily Lomachenko, Teofimo Lopez, Keyshawn Davis, Nayana Inoue. So, can something be worked out? And will Bob Arum respond to De La Hoya's call to talk? Let's hope so. It's a great concept. And the Warren versus Hearn show is fantastic. Maybe we'll get to see more and more shows similar versus these last Saturday 5v5s. There's been a lot of talk of a UK versus USA, USA versus Mexico showdown. And fans like me say, bring it on. And so who's complaining about the best versus the best? Nobody. And do you really need belts? The answer is no. Why? Money talks, bullshit walks. I'm going to leave the last quote to Lennox Lewis, that great Canadian boxer who won gold in the Olympics for Canada, and then moved over to his birthplace over in Britain to continue a professional career. But nonetheless, let's leave the last quote of the day to him. His advice to Deontay Wilder: retire. And he says, leave with your faculties intact. All right. There you go. There you have it, boxing fans. Hope you appreciate that. Remember to like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell for me. And we'll see you again on Talkin Fight very soon. Thanks for all your comments. Appreciate it. Anything else? Don't think so. Don't see anything else screaming up at me. Talk to you later.